alien girl discovered a human man, then dragged him into a secret bunker of 1,000 women, HFY. Salith had flown through dead space for weeks, listening only to static and the quiet hum of her scout ship. This sector of the galaxy was marked as empty, a place no one visited anymore. Stars were dim here, planets cold and broken. Long ago, great wars had burned this region clean. Nothing was supposed to live. That was why the signal made her freeze. It was weak, broken, and old, but it followed a pattern she had studied in forbidden archives. A pattern erased from public records. Human. Salith checked her instruments again, convinced it had to be an echo or a mistake. The galaxy had agreed on one truth for generations. Humans were gone. They had fought too fiercely, adapted too quickly, and scared too many powerful species. In the end, the galaxy had united against them. Their worlds were destroyed, their fleets shattered. Survivors were hunted until silence remained. At least that was the official story. The signal pulsed again. Salith swallowed and adjusted her course. The source was a ruined planet, its surface cracked like old bone. No city stood anymore, only shadows of what once had been. Her ship descended through thin clouds and landed near a collapsed structure half buried in dust. She moved carefully, her hand close to her sidearm. Radiation levels were low, but life signs were almost non-existent. Almost. Behind twisted metal and fallen stone, she found him. The human man lay against a wall, his breathing shallow but steady. He was thinner than the images she had seen, his clothes torn and patched many times. One arm was wrapped in dirty fabric, dark with dried blood. His face was unshaven, marked by exhaustion, but his eyes snapped open the moment she stepped closer. He moved fast despite his injuries. A piece of sharp metal was suddenly in his hand, pointed at her throat. "Don't come closer," he said. His voice was rough but strong. "I don't care what you are." Salith raised her hand slowly. "You are injured," she said in simple trade language. "I will not harm you," he laughed, a short, bitter sound. "Everyone says that." She studied him with quiet shock. He was real. Not a relic, not a clone, not a preserved sample. A living human, surviving alone on a dead world. "How long have you been here?" she asked. "Long enough," he replied. "Now leave." Before she could answer, her ship's warning system screamed in her ear. She turned just in time to see multiple energy signatures entering the atmosphere. Hunters. Her blood ran cold. "They are coming for you," Salith said quickly. "If they find you, they will kill you." The human's eyes narrowed. "Who?" "Everyone." He pushed himself to his feet, swaying but determined. "Then I'll die standing." She respected that more than she wanted to admit. But respect would not save him. Salith made a decision she knew would change everything. She stepped forward and activated a stun field, knocking him unconscious before he could react. As she dragged him toward her ship, plasma fire lit the sky above them. Her vessel lifted off just as the first shot struck the ground where they had stood. Moments later, they were gone. When the human woke, the first thing he did was struggle. "Let me go," he shouted, pulling against the restraint field. "Where am I?" Salith kept her voice calm. "You are safe for now." "I didn't ask for safe," he snapped. "I asked for free. You will thank me later." He stared at her with open anger. "I don't even know your name." "Salith." "Ethan," he said after a pause. "Ethan Cole." The ship entered a jump corridor, stars stretching into lines of light. Ethan fell silent, watching with a mix of fear and awe. Humans had once ruled space, but this kind of travel was something even they had struggled to perfect. After a long journey, the ship exited near a massive asteroid drifting far from any trade route. At first, Ethan saw nothing special about it, just rock and shadow. Then the asteroid opened. Hidden doors separated, revealing a structure buried deep inside. Energy shields flared to life as Salith guided the ship into a hangar that sealed behind them. Ethan's heart raced. "What is this place?" he demanded. "A sanctuary," Salith said quietly. She led him through long corridors carved into stone and metal. The air was warm, clean, and full of life support systems far more advanced than anything he had seen in years. Guards watched them pass, both alien and human-built machines standing side by side. Human-built. Ethan stopped walking. "No," he whispered. "That's not possible." Salith said nothing as she opened a final door. The room beyond was enormous, lit by soft white light. Rows of living quarters stretched into the distance. Screens displayed data in multiple languages, and everywhere he looked there were people, human women, hundreds of them. They stood, sat, and worked, all frozen as they noticed him. Conversations died instantly. Some stared in disbelief. Others covered their mouths. A few looked afraid. Ethan felt like the ground had vanished beneath his feet. "I thought I was alone," he said, his voice barely audible. "So did we," one woman whispered. Salith stepped forward. "This is Bunker Eos," she announced. "One of the last hidden shelters of humanity." A tall woman with silver-streaked hair approached Ethan slowly. Her eyes were sharp, assessing, but wet with emotion. "You're real," she said. "You're not part of the program." "I never signed up for anything," Ethan replied. That earned a few quiet laughs, tense but relieved. The woman nodded. "I'm Director Mara Chen. We were told all surviving men were accounted for or lost." "Well," Ethan said, looking around, "someone missed me." Mara studied him carefully. "How did you survive out there?" Ethan shrugged. "By refusing to die." That answer spread through the room like a spark. Salith watched the humans closely. She could feel it now, the thing her people had feared. Not their strength, not their technology, but their spirit. Even broken, even hunted, they refused to disappear. Alarms suddenly rang through the bunker. Mara turned sharply to a console. "External scan," a technician looked up pale. "Multiple unknown ships, long range, they're not broadcasting." Salith's chest tightened. "They followed my jump trail." Ethan straightened despite his injuries. "Then hiding won't work anymore." Mara met his eyes. "No, it won't." Around them, the last remnants of humanity stood together, facing a future they had never planned for. And somewhere out in the dark, the galaxy was about to remember why humans had once terrified it. The alarms continued to echo through the bunker long after the first shock passed. Red lights pulsed along the stone walls, turning calm white halls into warning tunnels. People moved quickly but without panic. This place had been designed for fear. It had lived with fear for decades. Ethan stood in the center of it all, feeling like a stone dropped into still water. Every eye seemed to return to him again and again. Not with blame, not with anger, but with questions he did not know how to answer. Mara Chen raised her hand and slowly the noise softened. "Everyone, return to your stations," she said firmly. "This is not the end. It is a complication." That word made Ethan snort quietly. "You have a strange way of describing fleets that hunt humans." Mara looked at him. "We have survived this long by choosing our words carefully." She motioned for him to follow, and Salith walked beside them as they moved into a secure briefing chamber. Thick doors sealed behind them, blocking the outside noise. Inside, large displays lit up with maps, symbols, and distant moving shapes. Ethan stared at the screen. Even with limited knowledge, he could tell the truth was bad. "How many ships?" he asked. "Unknown," Mara replied. "But enough to be a threat." "Then why aren't you evacuating?" he said. "If this place is found, staying is suicide." Mara folded her arms. "Because this bunker is not just a shelter. It is a lie the galaxy believes." Salith nodded. Bunker Eos was hidden using technology older than most empires. It masks human presence completely, or it did. Ethan turned to her sharply. "Did. They followed my jump trail," Salith admitted. "That was unexpected." Mara exhaled slowly. "Nothing involving humans is ever expected." She tapped the console and a new image appeared. It showed rows of people, training halls, research labs, and agricultural zones. "This bunker houses 1,000 human women, scientists, pilots, doctors, engineers, historians." Not because of biology alone, but because knowledge survives through those who protect it. Ethan frowned. You saved only women. We saved leaders, Mara said calmly. At the time, most male survivors were soldiers, brave but hunted first. The choice was cruel, but survival often is. Ethan looked away. He could not argue with survival even if it hurt. What was I supposed to be then? He asked quietly. A mistake, Mara met his eyes. You are proof that humanity never fully broke. That silence carried weight. Over the next days, Ethan was given medical care and clean clothes. His wounds healed quickly with advanced treatment, but the tension inside him did not fade. Everywhere he walked, people whispered. Some smiled at him with hope. Others watched him with caution. He noticed how ordered everything was. Schedules controlled daily life. Movement was tracked. Even conversations felt measured. Humanity had survived by becoming careful, too careful. Ethan spent hours speaking with engineers and technicians. He listened more than he talked. He learned how the bunker hid itself, how it produced food, how it recycled air and water. It was brilliant and fragile. During one discussion, a young engineer named Lena showed him a power distribution chart. If the fleet locates us precisely, they could bombard the asteroid, she said. We would survive for a time underground, but eventually, she did not finish. They'd starve you out, Ethan said. You built a tomb with a long fuse. Lena stiffened. We built a future. By never stepping into it, he replied. Word of his opinion spread fast. Some welcomed his perspective. Others saw him as a threat to stability. He had not grown up in the bunker. He did not accept its rules easily. He questioned decisions that had gone unchallenged for years. Mara called a council meeting. The chamber filled with representatives from every division. Salith stood near the wall, silent but watchful. Ethan was allowed to speak, though many eyes burned into him. You want to stay hidden, Ethan said simply. That worked when humans were myths. It doesn't work once someone finds you. A woman from security spoke sharply. We have survived for generations by not drawing attention. And now attention is here, Ethan replied. Whether you like it or not. Another voice joined in. What are you suggesting? Open war? We don't have fleets. Ethan shook his head. Humans never win by matching strength. We win by changing the rules. Murmurs spread through the room. We don't need to fight them head-on, he continued. We need to make them unsure, confused. Afraid to commit. Mara studied him closely. And how would you do that? Ethan smiled faintly. It was the first time anyone saw something like confidence instead of exhaustion. By reminding them why they erased us in the first place. The room fell quiet. Planning began immediately. Under Ethan's guidance, old human designs were pulled from archives, ships that were never built, weapons that relied on deception instead of power, signal manipulation, false gravity wells, automated drones with unpredictable patterns. The women of the bunker did not hesitate. Pilots trained in simulators day and night. Engineers rewired systems never meant for combat. Scientists adapted farming drones into mobile units capable of masking energy signatures. Salith watched with growing awe. This is why they feared you, she said to Ethan as they observed a training exercise. You turned scarcity into advantage. He shrugged. When you grow up with nothing, you learn how to use anything. As the enemy fleet drew closer, the bunker changed. The quiet shelter became alive with purpose. Fear did not vanish, but it sharpened into focus. Then the first probe arrived. It slipped past the outer sensors, drifting close enough to scan the asteroid. For a moment, no one breathed. Ethan watched the feed. Now, he said. The probe's instruments suddenly flooded with false readings. Multiple human signals appeared across nearby space, each broadcasting fragmented distress calls. The probe hesitated. Then it exploded. Cheers erupted in the control room, quickly silenced by Mara's raised hand. That was only a scout, she said. The real test is coming. Hours later, the fleet repositioned. Instead of approaching directly, they spread out, cautious now. Their confidence was shaken. Ethan leaned against a console, exhausted but satisfied. "They're guessing," he said. "And when enemies guess, they make mistakes." Mara nodded slowly. "You have changed the balance." "No," Ethan replied. "You already had the pieces, you just forgot how to play." Salith looked at both of them. "If this succeeds, the galaxy will learn the truth." Mara met her gaze. "That humans are alive. That humans refuse to stay buried," Salith said. The bunker's lights dimmed slightly as power shifted to defense mode. Outside, the enemy fleet waited, uncertain and uneasy. For the first time in generations, humanity was not hiding. It was preparing to remind the stars who it was. The enemy fleet did not attack right away. It waited, drifting in a wide arc around the asteroid, like predators circling something they were no longer sure was weak. That silence was heavy. Inside Bunker Eos, everyone felt it pressing on them. Ethan stood in the main operations room, watching the moving lights on the display. Each light was a ship. Each ship carried weapons powerful enough to erase cities. He had faced death many times alone, but this was different. Now 1,000 lives depended on every decision. "They are scared," he said quietly. Mara Chen crossed her arms. "Or patient." "Fear makes patience," Ethan replied. "Confidence makes speed." The bunker had changed in the past few days. People walked faster, spoke sharper, thought harder. There was no chaos, but there was energy. Humans worked best when pushed, and everyone here felt it. Training continued nonstop. Pilots ran simulation after simulation, learning how to fly ships that did not truly exist yet. Engineers tested drones again and again, pushing them until they failed, then fixing them stronger. Scientists adjusted signal algorithms to make sure every false message felt real. Salith moved between teams, helping where she could. Though she was not human, she felt something powerful growing around her. Not anger, not hatred, determination. "These women," she said to Ethan as they watched a group of pilots exit a simulator, exhausted but smiling, "they were taught to survive quietly." "They still are," Ethan answered. "They're just doing it louder now." A warning tone sounded. "All stations," a voice announced. "Multiple ships breaking formation. Vector unknown." The enemy fleet was moving. Mara stepped forward. "Execute Phase 2." Across the bunker, systems shifted. External projectors activated, creating dozens of false asteroid shadows and energy signatures. The space around Bunker Eos became crowded with ghosts. The enemy reacted immediately. Several ships peeled away, firing probing shots into empty space. Their weapons struck nothing but vacuum. "They're testing us," Lena said from her console, "looking for patterns." Ethan leaned closer to the display. "Then let's give them chaos." He gave a quick nod. Dozens of drones launched from hidden ports across the asteroid's surface. They were small, weak, and cheap. Individually, they meant nothing. Together, they became noise. The drones scattered, each broadcasting a slightly different signal. Some pretended to be damaged ships. Others mimicked power surges. A few even copied old human military codes long thought useless. The enemy fleet hesitated. "They don't know which signal is real," Mara said. "That's the point," Ethan replied. "If everything looks dangerous, nothing feels safe." One of the enemy ships moved too close. Ethan saw it before anyone else. "That one," he said, pointing. "It's the command relay." "How do you know?" Mara asked. "It's not firing," Ethan said. "Leaders watch first." A silence followed as everyone understood what he meant. Mara turned to the weapons team. "Prepare precision strike, limited output." The bunker did not have heavy guns. What it had was accuracy. A single focused beam fired not at the ship itself, but just ahead of it. The space there twisted briefly as the beam disrupted local sensors and navigation. The enemy ship veered off course, colliding with one of its own escorts. The explosion was massive. Shockwaves rippled through the fleet. Ships scattered, breaking their careful formation. Some fired wildly, Others pulled back, cheers erupted, quickly controlled. "That was not luck," Mara said softly. "That was planning." Ethan did not smile, his eyes were fixed on the display. "And now they'll adapt." He was right. The fleet regrouped faster this time. Their ships changed frequencies, cutting through some of the false signals. A few drones were destroyed. "They're learning," Lena said, tension in her voice. "So do we," Ethan replied. "Begin Phase 3. Phase 3 was risky. It required humans to step out of the bunker's shadow. A small strike team prepared in a launch bay deep inside the asteroid. 5 people. 3 women pilots, Ethan and Salith. Their ship was old, patched together from designs that predated the bunker itself. Mara met Ethan before he boarded. "You don't have to do this," she said. "Your value here is useless if we lose," Ethan finished. "They need a face to fear again." Mara nodded slowly. "Bring them back." The ship launched silently, slipping into the chaos outside. It flew low, hugging false signals, hiding among drone swarms. Enemy sensors brushed past them without locking on. Inside the cockpit, no one spoke. They reached the edge of the fleet, where a massive vessel drifted slightly apart from the others. It was larger, heavier, and slower. "That's the command ship," one of the pilots whispered. Ethan leaned forward. "We don't destroy it," he said. "We cut its voice." They flew closer, dodging stray fire and debris. The ship's surface loomed before them, covered in armor and glowing lines of power. Salith's hands moved quickly over controls. "I can get us inside," she said, "but we will not be welcome." "Humans rarely are," Ethan replied. They breached through a maintenance port and landed hard inside a dark hangar. Alarms screamed immediately. The team moved fast. Ethan led them through narrow corridors, guided by instincts built from years of survival. He did not know this ship, but he understood fear, and fear shaped all ships the same way. It made shortcuts. It exposed weaknesses. They reached the command core. Inside, alien officers turned in shock as humans burst through the doors. For a moment, no one moved. The idea of living humans had been a story, not a reality. That moment was enough. Ethan slammed an energy charge into the main console. Systems flickered. Screens went dark. The ship shuddered. The aliens shouted, reaching for weapons, but the humans were already moving. "We're done," Ethan said. "Fall back." They ran as the ship began to lose power. Gravity fluctuated. Lights failed. The escape was chaotic, but they made it. Their ship burst free just as the command vessel drifted powerless among its fleet. Back in the bunker, the effect was immediate. Enemy ships froze, confused by the sudden loss of coordination. Orders conflicted. Some ships advanced. Others retreated. "They've lost control," Lena said, disbelief in her voice. Mara closed her eyes briefly. "They came to hunt ghosts," she said. "Instead, they found humans." Outside, the fleet began to pull away, firing randomly as they went. None of their shots came close to the asteroid. When Ethan's ship returned, the bunker erupted in sound. Relief, laughter, tears. Mara met Ethan as he stepped off the ramp. He was bruised, exhausted, but standing. "You just changed everything," she said. "No," Ethan replied quietly. "You did. I just reminded you how." Salith watched the humans gather, helping each other, already planning what came next. She understood now. Humanity was not dangerous because it sought control. It was dangerous because it refused to surrender its future. Out in the dark, the enemy fleet fled with a message burned into its memory. Humans were not gone. And they were done hiding. The enemy fleet did not return. For several long hours, Bunker Eos remained in full alert, watching the dark space around the asteroid. Scanners swept again and again, searching for any sign of a second attack, but the stars stayed quiet. The hunters had become the hunted, and they had chosen distance over death. Slowly, carefully, the bunker began to breathe again. Ethan sat alone in a quiet observation room, staring at a small window that looked out into endless space. His body ached, but his mind was louder. For most of his life, survival meant staying unnoticed. Now he had helped do the opposite. There was no going back. Salith joined him, her expression thoughtful. "The message is already spreading," she said. "Signals intercepted from nearby systems confirm it." The fleet reported human resistance. Ethan let out a slow breath. "Good, let them talk." "They are afraid," Salith continued. "Not of your weapons, of what you represent," he nodded. "Humans don't fit neat plans." Inside the bunker, Mara Chen stood before the full council. The room was packed. Faces that once carried only caution now carried something else, hope mixed with resolve. "We can no longer pretend the galaxy will forget us," Mara said. "Our silence protected us once. It will not protect us again." A murmur spread through the chamber. "We have a choice," she continued. "Seal the bunker, move deeper, and wait until the galaxy changes on its own, or step forward and shape what comes next." Eyes turned toward Ethan, who stood near the back. He felt the weight of it but did not step forward. A woman from the engineering division spoke first. "We survived by hiding," she said, "but we lived small." A pilot followed. "If they fear us already, we should decide what they fear." Mara nodded slowly. "Then we vote." The decision was not unanimous, but it was clear. Humanity would step into the light. The next weeks were the busiest in the bunker's history. Systems once built only to sustain life were expanded. Ship bays were opened and redesigned. Old hulls, once hidden as backups, were brought into the open and repaired. Ethan worked alongside everyone else. He refused titles, refused authority. When people tried to call him a leader, he corrected them. "I just survived long enough to be loud," he said. Salith worked tirelessly to establish contact with alien groups that had quietly opposed the purge of humanity long ago. Some answered cautiously, others did not answer at all, but a few sent simple messages. "We remember." Mara oversaw the creation of a new council, not hidden behind layers of secrecy, but transparent to every person in the bunker. Decisions were debated openly. Mistakes were admitted quickly. Humanity had learned what silence could cost. One day, a young woman approached Ethan in the training hall. "Why did you really come with Salith?" she asked. "You could have run." Ethan considered the question. "Because running only works if there's somewhere left to go," he said. The first human ship launched from Bunker Eos a month later. It was not a warship. Its hull was simple, functional, and marked with no weapon symbols. Instead, it carried a message broadcast on every open channel. "Humans are alive. We remember what was done. We choose to endure." The ship traveled to neutral systems, avoiding conflict, letting others see it, scan it, talk about it. Fear spread, yes, but so did curiosity. Responses came slowly. Some species demanded explanations. Others demanded surrender. A few offered cautious dialogue. Ethan watched one such message appear on the screen. "They want to meet," Lena said, "in open space." Mara looked at Ethan. "You should be there." He shook his head. "Send people who want power. I'll stay with the ones building things." Mara smiled slightly. "That is why they listened to you." The meeting went better than expected. No weapons were fired. Words were exchanged. History was argued. For the first time in generations, humans were not being spoken about. They were speaking. Months passed. Trade began quietly. Shared research followed. Not everyone trusted humans, but trust was no longer required for coexistence. Only honesty. Salith prepared to leave one day, her duty calling her elsewhere. She met Ethan at the hangar. "You changed more than you know," she said. "So did you," he replied. "You could have ignored the signal." She looked at the human ships now docked openly. "I'm glad I didn't." Before she boarded, she paused. "The galaxy will test you again." Ethan smiled. "It always does." Years later, Bunker Eos was no longer a bunker. Its doors remained open. The asteroid became a hub, a meeting place, a reminder. Human colonies were small at first, carefully placed, built with cooperation instead of conquest. Humans remembered what arrogance had cost them. Ethan never left Eos. He taught survival, engineering, and history to those who asked. When people spoke his name with respect, he redirected it toward others. One human doesn't matter, he would say. What matters is that we stand together. Far across the galaxy, old empires adjusted their plans. Humans were no longer erased from maps. They were no longer whispered about as monsters or myths. They were simply there. And in that quiet, powerful truth, the galaxy learned something it had forgotten. Humanity did not rise because it was the strongest. It rose because it refused to disappear.